As I mentioned before, all of them are integrated with Amazon and Mozy. So any of that functionality that I talked about in the first part of this presentation is available in any of these products. It's integral to our operating system, which runs across the product line. So the differences between the products from here on in that we're going to be talking about are mostly hardware-related differences. So it's going to be performance, number of drives, number of ports, etc. But all of them are certified for virtualization platforms, certified for the Digital Living Network Association. Means you plug it into your network, and any other DLNA devices like TVs or picture frames or anybody that's also certified are automatically going to discover the NAS on your network. And then there's some other, I would say, advanced features that home users aren't certainly going to use, but a business user might want to. One of those is iSCSI. iSCSI storage is a way of presenting storage to a host that doesn't have a file system. That may be gibberish to some of you, but it's basically like adding a hard drive to your server or to your PC without actually having to open it up. You dedicate a chunk of network storage as basically another internal hard drive on your device. That's useful, for example, if you've got an application that needs raw storage to run. There are some accounting packages. To be honest, I'm not sure if there are any Mac specific products that are like that, or Mac applications that need direct attached storage in order to work. But this is a way that you can use a NAS product to be effectively an internal drive for your computer. So iSCSI is not shared, but it is functionality that's built into all of our products. Another function that's built in, hard drive spin down. So if you are not using the product 24/7, the drives will spin down, save you some power. Moving up the line, as I mentioned, this is the 4-drive network storage products. All of the functionality that we talked about previously is in this one as well. Moving up the line again, the Pt2. This is the one that starts with the solid state drive option. So you could create a solid, you could even buy the bare one, the empty Pt2, put 2 solid state drives in there and have a RAID 1 set of solid state drives, and then put 2 rotating drives, 2 hard disk drives in there, and have another RAID set. So you could partition off part of this device is my high performance solid state drives, another part of this is my backup set or my archiving set. So a lot of flexibility here. Pt6, real similar to the one you just saw, the Pt4, except this one has 6 drive bays. So again, you could, create different RAID sets out of different drives, solid state drives or rotating drives. The Pt4 300R, this is the entry level rack mount. I think I mentioned it before, but I want to mention again. This introduces the redundant power supply option. So if you're looking for something that has more availability, more uptime, the things that tend to fail in servers are drives and power supplies. This one has a redundant power supply option, so you could maintain availability. And then finally, the top of the Iomega product line, the Pt12, 12 drive bays. You can populate it with up to 3 terabyte drives, so you get a total of 36 terabytes. You don't have to buy it with 36 terabytes at first. You can buy it with, I think we can start with 8 terabytes and grow it up to 36. So there would be 4 drives populated and then 8 blank drive trays. So if you needed to get an entry level and say, well, I know I'm going to grow over the next couple of years, you can do that with the Pt12, as you can also with the Pt4 or the Pt6. So a lot of capability there. I think I'm going to leave it at that and open it up for questions, because I want to make sure that folks have time to ask questions. We're about at the half-hour mark. If there are questions, that's great. If there aren't, then we'll get a half hour of our day back. But please feel free to ask questions here. There's a great one here already in the Q&A. How does it work with Android phones? Doesn't work yet. The Android app is scheduled for a Q1 release, and it'll work just about exactly the same as the iPhone app that I described. So the folks who developed our app for mobile devices started with iPhone. In fact, they're going to be doing an iPhone, like a 1.1 version of that app about the same time as they do the Android app. So coming out soon, sometime this quarter. That is a no-charge option, by the way, so when it comes out, when it's available, you just download it, and you'll be ready to go. Here's another, this is a great question, asking about the replication piece. It says for your NAS replication, is that block level? It is file level, and there are two protocols for the replication. So now we're getting into the gory details, so this is great. The replication is file level, so it's file shares only. So if you set up an iSCSI LUN and map that to your host, whether that's a Mac or a Windows or a VMware host, that LUN will not be replicated. It's not shared, and that will not make use of our replication. If you set up a NFS share or a CIFS share or any type of a file level share, that's where we can replicate. And we can replicate either using CIFS or rsync replication. rsync takes advantage of changed blocks for replication. So in the case of you've got large files that change a little bit, then you can take advantage of rsync replication and replicate just the changed blocks out of those files across your network. And that has a real nice benefit. Like I said, if you are replicating large files that change only a little bit. So it might be video files that you're editing, etc. If they change just a little bit, then you're replicating only the changes. So great question about the replication piece. How do you send backups to the cloud? Isn't that an awful lot of data to go over the internet? It sure is. It depends on how much data. It can be. And the first time you do it, you could be waiting a long time for it to complete. So let's talk about the two different cloud scenarios that I mentioned earlier. One is to a third party. In that case, you don't have any direct access to the third party. Your only way to access that third party is through the internet connection. So you're going to select the files and folders that you want to send to Mozy or Amazon S3, and that's going to use your internet connection to replicate all that data up to Mozy or Amazon. As I said, depending on how much data and how big your pipe is, that could take a long time. The other approach that I mentioned is where you've taken control of your own cloud. You're going to create your own personal cloud using Iomega's personal cloud functionality, where you are going to use two devices. Let's say you had 3 or 4 terabytes of data that you wanted to replicate. A best practice would be to literally have the two devices next to each other on the network, perform a baseline replication, pack up the one product, and send it to its other location. From that point on, as long as you're using rsync, well, even if you're using CIFS replication, you're going to be doing either only changed files or only changed blocks of those files. And that's going to minimize your bandwidth use. And I can tell you, if you do this at your house, and I've got Time Warner as my broadband provider, I've got pretty good download speed, but I've got horrible upload speed. If I'm trying to replicate data out of my house, I've got a real skinny pipe. And so it's definitely big enough to replicate just the minor changes that occur. But if I tried to replicate my entire data set across my skinny Time Warner upload link, I'd be waiting several days, maybe even a week. So great question about that bandwidth over the cloud backups. So talked about, with Mozy and Amazon S3, it's nice to have those third-party providers, but you're gonna wait for your data to sync. It's going to depend on how much data. If you've got control of it, if you're going to do a personal cloud and set it up to replicate between 2 devices, I recommend put those 2 devices together, let them do a baseline replication, and then send one off to the where it's ultimately going to be. Next question. How long has this product been on the market? Does it have a reliable history? So the product line, let's see, these have all been on the market varying lengths of time. Iomega has been in the NAS business at least 5 years. We were purchased by EMC about 3 years ago. EMC is the largest data center storage provider in the world. They're enterprise data storage products. If you're in the IT business at all, you know about EMC. EMC bought Iomega about 3 years ago. One of the great side benefits of that acquisition is that the EMC engineering group now develops our network storage operating system. So all of the functionality that you heard about in this presentation was developed by EMC engineering back in Southborough, Massachusetts. So it's literally a group of guys who worked on Clarion and Solera and all the other EMC enterprise products, but they're applying it to the SMB and consumer market. In that respect, highly reliable. We're using engineering processes and the like that are being used on enterprise products, so highly reliable. Great question. And the different models, to I guess dig a little bit deeper, anywhere, let's see, home media has been on the market for just about 3 years. That's the single drive NAS, and probably the newest products on the market that you saw in the presentation were the PX4 and PX6 desktop products, and those launched in May 2011. Yeah, so a little over 6 months. Here's a question. If you're setting up a personal cloud, you have to have 2 NAS devices, right? Yes, if you're going to replicate data between the 2 NAS devices, but there is another use case that I talked about where you've got a single NAS device, you create a personal cloud, and then invite other people or other devices, other Mac users, other PC users to join your personal cloud. So that could be the case where you are the NAS owner and you invite collaborators to join your cloud. And those other devices that they're using to join the cloud with would be a PC, a Mac, and an iOS device. So you don't necessarily have to have 2 NAS devices. You could use another computing device as the other member of the cloud, and that's how you would do it if you wanted to have a collaborator or, invite mom to join your personal cloud so she could see your home videos. Great question. I'm glad I got the opportunity to cover that off again. Let me see, I'm going to look here real quickly in the chat section to see if anybody else has questions from that venue, but it looks like most folks have been using the Q&A. Let's see, I'm going to take a scan one more time for questions. If folks have any more questions, please feel free to ask them. You can always follow up, of course, with our good friends at Mac Mall who can get you additional information on the product line or the capabilities. They know how to get a hold of me. If you have a detailed question, we also have sales engineering support, so pre-sale support if you want to get a deep dive on any of these technical topics. We'd be glad to help you out. So Katie, I do not see any additional questions in the queue.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and call this a wrap.
Okay, that sounds good. So, well, thanks, Jeff. It was a great presentation, and as a reminder to everyone, it was recorded, and we will be sending the recording to you via email next week. You can also access it at our website at www.macmall.com. And our winner today of the Iomega Superhero is Randall Becker. So congratulations, Randall. I'll follow up with you after this. And just a quick reminder that I want to encourage everyone to register for our next webinar, which will be on HDR and panoramic compositing. So it's Photoshop techniques, and these are going to be more advanced for the designer and photographer. And that's going to take place next Tuesday, the 24th at 11 a.m. Pacific. So congratulations again to you, Randall. And Jeff, thank you so much for your knowledge today and delivering a great presentation.
Great. Thank you, Katie. It was my pleasure. And thanks, everybody, for your great attention. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, everyone, for joining us. Have a great rest of your day. This is now over.
Bye-bye.